They say family comes first, but what happens when family puts you last? I'm Oluchi Nwankwo, born in 1952 in Lagos, Nigeria. Back in 2019, at age 67, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I sold my beautiful 3-bedroom house in Victoria Island to help fund my son Emeka's family vacation to Dubai. I felt proud to be the generous grandmother, but then something happened that shattered my heart into a million pieces. Today, at 72, sitting in my small apartment in Acadia, I'm finally sharing this because every grandmother deserves to know her worth. If you're listening, drop your location below. And please subscribe. This story will change how you see family. Loyalty forever. The morning started like any other Tuesday in March 2024. I was preparing my famous jollof rice, humming old high life songs, when Emeka called. "Mama, we're planning another family trip," he announced, his voice carrying that familiar tone of expectation. My heart leaped with joy. Maybe this time, they'd finally invite me along. For 5 years, I'd watched through WhatsApp photos as they explored Santorini, Paris, and the Maldives, always wondering why Grandma Oluchi never made it into those perfect family portraits. "Where are you going this time, my son?" I asked, stirring the rice with trembling hands. The excitement in my voice was embarrassing now that I think about it. "Dubai, Mama. 2 weeks in Dubai." The kids are so excited about the beaches and the Carmel Sanctuary. Emeka's wife, Kioma, was giggling in the background, probably already planning her Instagram posts. "That sounds wonderful," I whispered, waiting for the invitation that never came. Instead, silence stretched between us like an ocean. Then Emeka cleared his throat. "Mama, we need to talk about something. Kioma and I have been discussing it, and we think you should stay home this time too." My wooden spoon froze mid-stir. "Stay home? But I've never been to Dubai. I've never seen an Carmel." "Emeka, Mama, you're 72 now. These trips are getting more adventurous, more physically demanding. You'd slow us down. And honestly, you're too old to keep up with our pace. The kids want to do water sports, hiking, and late-night beach parties. It's just not suitable for someone your age." The words hit me like a slap across the face. Too old. Slow them down. Not suitable. Each phrase carved deeper into my soul. This was the same son I'd carried for 9 months, the same boy I'd worked 3 jobs to put through university, the same man whose wedding I'd funded by selling my late husband's vintage car collection. "But Emeka, I sold my house for your Dubai trip. I gave you my life savings for the Paris vacation. I've been living in this tiny apartment, eating rice and beans every day, just so your family could live their dreams. Don't I deserve to make some memories too?" Kioma's voice cut through the phone like a knife. "Mama Oluchi, we appreciate everything you've done. We really do. But this is about being practical. You can't swim. You get tired easily. And you need special accommodations everywhere we go. It's just easier without you. Easier without me." The woman who'd raised their children when they were too busy building their careers. The grandmother who'd taught their kids IGBO songs and folktales. The same woman who'd pawned her gold jewelry to pay for their son's private school fees. "Besides," Emeka added, his voice growing colder, "you can live vicariously through our photos. We'll take lots of pictures for you. Live vicariously through photos." Like I was already dead, just waiting for scraps of their happiness to fall my way. I hung up the phone without another word. The jollof rice burned while I sat on my small couch, staring at the framed family photos covering my coffee table. Every single picture showed them living their best lives. Designer clothes, 5-star hotels, exotic locations, all funded by my sacrifices. And in every single photo, there was an empty space where Grandma should have been. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out the small metal box I'd hidden behind my old church dresses. Inside was my secret money I'd been saving from my small pension, coins I'd collected from neighbors who paid me to sew their clothes, bills I'd tucked away from selling my late mother's jewelry piece by piece. It wasn't much by their standards, but it was mine. My independence fund, my dignity account, 47,000 naira. Not enough for their luxury standards, but enough for something else entirely. I opened my laptop. Yes, this 72-year-old grandmother knows how to use technology. and started researching flight prices, hotel rates, travel insurance for seniors. My fingers moved across the keyboard with a purpose I hadn't felt in years. If they thought I was too old to travel, I'd show them exactly what this old woman could do. The next morning, I called my neighbor, Mrs. Adebayo, who worked at a travel agency in Lagos Island. "I need to book a trip," I told her, my voice steady for the first time in months. "Where to, Mama Oluchi?" I smiled, feeling something shift inside my chest, something that felt like power returning to my bones. "Anywhere but here, and make it first class." The morning of March 15, 2024, I woke up at 1 a.m. with butterflies dancing in my stomach. Not the nervous kind, the excited kind. The kind I hadn't felt since I was a young woman boarding my first flight to London in 1975. I put on my best Ankara dress, the royal blue one with gold threading that my late husband always said made me look like a queen. Today, I would reclaim my throne. Mrs. Adebayo had worked miracles. Not only had she found me a first-class seat to Dubai, the same destination my ungrateful family was heading to, but she'd also connected me with her cousin who worked for Emirates Airlines. "Mama Oluchi," she'd whispered conspiratorially, "there's a famous travel blogger on your flight. Maybe you'll make a friend." I arrived at Murtala Muhammad International Airport 3 hours early. My small Louis Vuitton suitcase, a gift from my late husband that I'd never had occasion to use, rolling behind me like a loyal companion. The first-class check-in counter felt like stepping into another world. The attendant, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled warmly as she processed my ticket. "Mrs. Nwankwo, welcome to Emirates First Class. Is this your first time flying with us?" "First time flying first class anywhere," I admitted, and her smile grew even brighter. "Well, you're in for a treat. Let me personally escort you through security and to our lounge." As we walked through the airport, I felt eyes following me. A well-dressed elderly woman with confidence in her step, heading toward the premium sections. This was the woman I used to be before I started shrinking myself to fit into other people's expectations. The Emirates first-class lounge was like a palace. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a buffet that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel. I settled into a plush armchair with a cup of real coffee, not the instant powder I'd been drinking to save money, and watched other travelers, business executives, wealthy families, and in the corner, a young woman with a professional camera, editing photos on her laptop. "Excuse me," she said, approaching my chair. "I couldn't help but notice your beautiful dress. I'm Sarah Chen, and I run a travel blog called Wandering Wisdom. Would you mind if I asked what brings you to Dubai?" I studied her face with genuine curiosity, no condescension. "I'm Oluchi Nwankwo, and I'm traveling because I finally remembered that I deserve to see the world too." Something in my tone must have intrigued her because she sat down in the chair beside me. "That sounds like there's a story there." And suddenly, I found myself telling this stranger everything. About selling my house, about the years of funding their dreams, about yesterday's phone call that broke my heart but also set me free. Sarah listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or making soft sounds of understanding. "Mrs. Nwankwo," she said when I finished, "I have a proposition for you. I'm actually heading to Dubai to film content for a luxury travel series. My original travel companion canceled at the last minute. Would you be interested in joining me? All expenses paid, and I'd love to feature your story with your permission, of course." Before I could respond, the boarding announcement echoed through the lounge. "Emirates Flight X783 to Dubai. First-class passengers may now board." We walked to the gate together, Sarah chattering excitedly about her plans for Dubai content. As we approached the boarding area, I heard familiar voices. My heart stopped. There, in the economy boarding line, stood Emeka, Kioma, and their 2 children, looking harried and tired already. "Mama, did not you pack the motion sickness tablets?" Kioma was snapping at Emeka. "I told you to handle the medications," he replied irritably. Their son, my grandson Kelechi, was whining about wanting to sit by the window, while their daughter, Adana, was already complaining about the long flight ahead. They looked nothing like the glamorous family from their social media posts. They looked like they were stressed travelers in economy, arguing over details they should have sorted days ago. I took a deep breath and walked past them toward the first-class boarding line. Sarah was beside me, still talking about camera angles and lighting for our Dubai shoots. Grandma Kelechi's voice cut through the airport noise. Grandma Oluchi? The entire family turned. Emeka's mouth fell open. Kioma's eyes widened in shock. For a moment, nobody moved. Mama, Emeka finally managed. What are you doing here? I smiled the same quiet smile I'd given him on the phone yesterday. I'm going to Dubai, my son. You said I was too old to travel with you, so I decided to travel without you. But how? You don't have money for... Kioma started, then stopped, realizing how terrible that sounded. First-class passengers, please proceed to the gate, the attendant announced. Sarah gently touched my arm. Ready, Mrs. Nwankwo? I nodded and began walking toward the gate. Behind me, I heard Emeka calling, Mama, wait! We can talk about this. But I didn't turn around. I handed my boarding pass to the smiling attendant and walked down the jet bridge toward my new life. The first-class cabin was like a dream. My seat was practically a small apartment. A bed, a desk, a personal minibar, and a 32-inch television screen. The flight attendant, Ahmed, welcomed me personally and offered me champagne. To new adventures, I toasted quietly, taking my first sip 20 minutes later. As economy passengers filed past the first-class cabin, I saw my family struggling with their carry-on bags, looking exhausted before the flight even began. Emeka caught my eye through the gap in the curtain. I raised my champagne glass slightly and smiled. The look on his face was worth every naira I'd spent. During the flight, Sarah and I planned our Dubai itinerary. The Burj Khalifa, luxury desert safaris, 5-star dining experiences, and spa treatments. She wanted to document the journey of a grandmother who refused to be left behind, and I was ready to be her star. Mrs. Nwankwo, she said as we descended into Dubai, I have a feeling this is just the beginning of your travel story. She was right. That trip to Dubai became the first of many. Sarah's blog post about our adventure went viral, and suddenly, travel companies were reaching out, inviting me on sponsored trips around the world. At 72, I became an influencer, Grandma Wanderlust, inspiring other seniors to reclaim their dreams. My family, they learned that underestimating the quiet woman who raised them was their biggest mistake. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned, and it's never too late to demand what you deserve. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe for more inspiring tales, and share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. Comment below with your own comeback story. I read every single one. Moral lesson: sometimes the greatest revenge is simply refusing to remain invisible, teaching others that wisdom and wanderlust have no expiration date, and proving that every grandmother deserves her own first-class journey through life.